Were you a Pathfinder?
No.
Okay. However,
put your other hat on.
Oh, there it is.
I was a jump master.
There it is. Okay.
You give me a few more of those beers, I'll jump up there and keep on jumping there.
I can remember them. I love it.
10 minutes!
Prepare for this discussion with the materials our audience used by scanning this QR code or by clicking the link in the description. Then, join us in the comment section. Welcome to Addressing History's Tavern Talks. If you're new here, this isn't your typical history lecture. We're here to break down the barriers between the historian and the public. No podium, no dais, everyone is equal. Here at the Tavern, we flip the script, and you, the audience, are the star. Your thoughts, your questions, and your perspectives take center stage in a conversation that is as casual as it is critical. We simply believe that the exploration of history should be a movement of the people, by the people, and most importantly, for the people. And there's no better place to reclaim that tradition than in a tavern like this one, at the historic Mansion House, 1757 in Fairfield, Pennsylvania. Tonight, we turn our eyes to the dark pre-dawn hours of June 6th, 1944. Before the first boot ever hit the sand at Omaha or Utah beaches, the fate of the invasion hung in the balance, in the skies above Normandy. To break Hitler's hold on Western Europe, the Allies needed to paralyze the German response before the invasion fleet even arrived. The men of the 82nd and the 101st Airborne were tasked with the impossible: drop behind enemy lines, seize the vital bridges, and stop the German reinforcements cold. They were trained to fight surrounded and outnumbered, but the plan disintegrated the moment they left the plains. Fog, flak, and darkness scattered thousands of men miles off course. Units were broken. Individual soldiers were alone in the dark, far from their drop zones. But the reality of D-Day is not just a story of chaos. It is a story of improvisation and ingenuity. Where the plan failed, the paratrooper took over. Small groups linked up, wreaked havoc on the German rear, and bought the beaches the critical time they needed to survive. To guide us through this high-stakes history, we are joined by a man who knows a thing or two about leadership. He is retired Marine Colonel, historian, Gettysburg licensed battlefield guide, and Netflix star, Doug Douds. Doug is here to help us explore not just the strategy, but the spirit of a new kind of warfare, one built on boldness and the willingness to risk everything. So grab a drink and belly up to the bar with us as we get this conversation started on Tavern Talks, Airborne Operations at Normandy. My grandfather, this is my grandfather here. And
tell him his name.
Pop Pop.
Come on.
That's
Yes or no?
Anyone.
What kind of question is that?
A little bit more, if you don't mind. His name was John, or Jack, everybody called him. And he was in the 78th Division. He wasn't at D-Day, but he loved Chivas and soda.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see any Chivas, so I poured Johnny Green, which is very good. So this is to him. Hope you just get something to stir with.
Nice. Yeah, there we are.
Yeah. I'll just
You
use
guys
my
made
finger.
this all magic. They just leave pull the straws out.
Oh, that's all right. Ah, shit. Well, all right, it's gonna be heavy on top. There we go. That's to him and all the veterans that we have here in the United States, living and dead. 2 veterans right here. Any others?
Thankfully living.
You got little Mikey jumping in the back there. He's a vet. All right, good. Thank you, guys. All right, so we're talking about the airborne invasion, the airborne operations during the D-Day invasion. And Doug, why invade at Normandy?
Yeah, so we got to go 1944. War's been going on for the last 5 years. 27,000 people are dying a day. The fastest way to make this war end is to land in Northwest Europe, because that's the fastest route to go to Berlin, and the war's not over until a soldier stands with his boot on the neck of Adolf Hitler. And so for all the things we've been doing in North Africa and the Mediterranean, mildly interesting. Eventually, you got to land in Europe in order to get to Berlin and end the war.
And what does the airborne have to do with it? Why, first of all, why did they include them in it? And did the plan evolve over time, or how did it all work out?
Yeah, so the plan has evolved over time. They've taken a long study of how do we want to do this. And of course, the best route is just go across the Pas de Calais. It's the closest way. That's where Germans would have gone had they done Operation Sea Lion in 1940. So the Allies decide it's so obvious and well defended. What we have to do is go within range of our air cover. But when they pick Normandy, they pick a place that doesn't have a port. And that's going to be incredibly important because we think about amphibious landing. So it's really 3 things. You have to land, you have to build up, and then you have to break out. So the build up and breakout is logistics determined. Now, the plan originally for the airborne is, well, for the landing is 3 divisions. And it's really not until after December of 1943, January of 44, when Eisenhower and Montgomery look at the plan and they go, this is too small. And they add a division on each side. And now there's a division not connected to the rest of the landing, Utah Beach. It's isolated, alone, and Utah Beach is not only a beach, but then just inland from it, all the fields are flooded. So it's almost an island. In order to make that work, we have to use airborne forces. So the original thought is, hey, we're going to put them on the flanks. Flanks are vulnerable, not unlike the American Civil War. We're going to use airborne to secure the flanks. But then there's some ideas about what we should do. George C. Marshall says we should land them 70 miles inland at a place called Evreux. Land there. We'll use the airfields there. Eisenhower and everybody with experience up to this point in the war knows that's too far away. We might not get to them in time. They could be destroyed. The next idea is we should take a division to land it on the other side of the Cotentin Peninsula, because ultimately we want to cut that, because the reason we're landing at Utah Beach is so that we can make a right-hand turn and go up and take Cherbourg, the next closest port. Now that's the original plan, but the enemy gets a vote in all this. The Germans will start moving forces into the area. And so what we're going to see is the 82nd Airborne Division's landing zones keep getting closer and closer to where we know them to be. Ultimately, the last move is May 28th. Think about this. They're going to jump on June 6th. They're going to move almost back to back with the 101st. So we see this development over time. This is why you plan.
So they're going to be dropped behind enemy lines. That must require massive intelligence ahead of time, obviously.
Right.
So how did they gather intelligence back then? They didn't have satellites, they didn't have Google Earth.
Right.
So how do they do this?
It's a good question. So it's multiple source of intelligence, photographic intelligence. We see all the pictures of the defenses on the beaches. Those are literally aircraft flying over and taking pictures. But they're also taking pictures of landing zones and drop zones to get an idea of where these airborne forces need to be dropped. Signals intelligence. Most people are familiar with Ultra and the capturing of the Enigma machine and breaking the codes. That is literally how they learned that the 91st Luftland Division has moved into the Cotentin Peninsula. That changes the plan. Resistance fighters in France are giving back troop movements and strengths, the location of batteries. They're going to land Jedburgh teams. Think about a team made up with a French citizen, a member of the Special Office Executive, the SOE, and the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, are going to drop behind lines to work with French resistance to pass information back. It's a combination of all those to get an overarching picture of what Normandy looks like that helps shape the plan.
Now, this just might be my imagination, but I'd imagine that if you're an invading, occupying force like the Germans were, and then you've got the Allies, who are trying to come in and get rid of them. The fact that those Germans are surrounded by Frenchmen is probably a vulnerability for them, right? So how integral were the French resistance to the intelligence gathering ahead of time? Because, I mean, again, look, we were talking before. So he and I were talking before. And one of the things we were talking about was, you can get all the aerial photographs you want, and you can, that's a hedgerow, that's a bush, that's a this, that's a farm, that's a barn, or farmhouse barn. But this looks completely different than this.
Yeah.
And you don't get depth very, very well and all that other stuff. So that they had to help with that, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, so what we get is a lot of very specific intelligence. There's a farmer there's a battery on his field at Port and Besson, which is really right in the middle between the British and the American landing beaches. His son's blind. And so every day he takes his son out for a walk, who counts off the distance between each of the guns, who then he gives that information back to the resistance that then send that back over. So they have an accurate layout of where that German battery is. One of the missions given to the 82nd is to cut the trunk communication line in St. Mary-Glees, because the trunk of the communications that run up to Cherbourg run through St. Mary-Glees. Now the airborne know exactly where to go open up the ground and go find that trunk line. So they get some very detailed information that allows for efficiency and effectiveness that you would not have otherwise.
Can I tell a story?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is 2018, October 2018, and it's the 25th anniversary of the movie Gettysburg. And the director, Ron Maxwell's in town, several actors are in town, and I knew Patrick Gorman. And so I had arranged a place for him to stay. I said, I'll be your chauffeur. I'll take you around wherever you want to go. And he goes, okay, then you get into wherever I get to go to drive me around. I was like, oh, great. So we got to go to a private dinner at the Dobbin House here in Gettysburg. Well, not here in Gettysburg, over there in Gettysburg. And we're at the Mansion House today. And I'm sitting, I'm in there. There's Patrick Gorman's on my left, me, a lady, and then a guy on the other side of her. And we're all at this long table, and I sit down and introduce me. Hi, I'm Matt. She goes, hi, I'm Susan. How are you? Nice to meet you. And so, we're just sitting there making small talk. And while we're making small talk, the old dude on the other side of her leans in to say something in her ear, but he's kind of behind her, so it travels past her and into my ear. And he says in a very heavy French accent, which I'm going to mangle right now, he says, I remember as a 5-year-old boy, your grandfather's paratroopers landing the morning of D-Day. And I look over, I'm like, who the hell is her grandfather? And I just happened to catch a silhouette and her profile, and I was like, I go, are you Susan Eisenhower? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God, my dad's I'd sit next to Susan. I would sit there for like a half an hour talking to her like she was a normal person, and she was treating me nice and everything like that. But it always stuck with me. He was 5 years old, and it's emblazoned in his mind, our paratroopers dropping behind enemy lines to what would end up being liberating them. And I don't know, I just think that's so cool. But it was Eisenhower's granddaughter sitting next to me. I don't know.
You
I get starstruck sometimes. So I said, hey, you need a ride anywhere? Yeah.
That'll teach you not to introduce yourself.
I know, right. So go ahead.
Actually, you talk about, so what you just told was a common person. Not that you're a common person, Matt. You're spectacular. But
right, sure.
It's a common person story, right? One of the other ways that they gathered intelligence was before they could run to tip their hand, English intelligence service had reached out to the English population writ large and said, send us all your postcards and photographs if you ever went on vacation in Normandy. And they got like 10,000 cards in the first month. They had to shut it down. But like when you look at the invasion maps that they produced, there's a silhouetted view for what it looked like if you were driving to the beach from what they manufactured using postcards. It's literally the wisdom of the crowd to generate intelligence.
So let me ask you this, and because there's going to be other examples he'll probably mention as we go along about the intelligence gathering things that the Allies did. Were the Germans that smart? in their
Sometimes.
intelligence gathering? I mean, like, because to me, like, maybe I'm dumb. These
Well-
things sound really clever.
So, yes, but there's a joy to fighting in an alliance. The Germans didn't choose terribly wisely who they were allied with, and they
Right.
did not provide them with all the intel. And then you think about all the structures that we put in behind that. So we could tap into a French population that was allied with us. We could tap into British and Scandinavians and Norwegians and Irishmen. So, I mean, you just think about the weather call, right? The Germans have more than 1,000 weather guessers. The Allies have less than 500. But they're really good. And they have access to all the lands for which weather travels across in the northern part of the hemisphere, so they can make better weather predictions. It is a system and a process that matters as much as what you have access to, and the Germans didn't necessarily have the process or the alliance to tap into.
Teamwork, in
Harumph.
other words.
Yeah, yeah.
Harumph.
Yeah.
So they've gathered their intelligence. What's the big threat to the airborne invasion?
Yeah, so the problem with airborne invasion is always you're going to drop them. It's this new capability, right? It really comes at the interwar years, World War I, static warfare. How do we break that? First of all, you go airborne. We're going to use airplanes to drop bombs. Mildly interesting. Airplanes can't occupy ground. That's a problem. So what we should do is have people jump out of them. But the problem is now they're going to jump out of them and be behind enemy lines and surrounded. So they can only jump with what they can carry. They can't carry that much. And oh, by the way, the minute they hit the ground, and this is not unlike an invasion, up until the point you drop or land on a beach, you have surprise, you can go drop or land anywhere you want. Once you start, though, you're going to start with 0 combat power ashore or inland, and then once you drop Paratrooper 1, it's a race of how fast you can build up combat power, but moreover, you're now on the clock. How fast can you get forces to catch up to those airborne because they are surrounded?
How about any of you? Any thoughts? Anything? George?
Did weather have an impact on their original plan going in? Did it make them have to alter or have an adverse or positive effect
It will
on the...
absolutely have an impact on how they drop. It will absolutely have an impact on how we drop. But we're going to talk about this notion of scattered because I have several thoughts on this. But weather is a factor all the way. Well, we know Eisenhower weather call. So weather impacts the entire operation, including German readiness.
Right.
Taking a step back, can you talk more about the intelligence system and process? Because, I mean, we're talking about even the postcard example that you just gave. That's not something that you can go, hey, email it over to me and let me get it. Like, that's a lot of thought that goes into how you set this up. When do you feel like you've got the intelligence?
Get the word out.
And they had a target date and a target window of when they needed to do it. So how far in advance are they having to anticipate getting everybody and getting that process and system set up?
So really, that process starts almost a year prior. So about March, I believe, is when Lieutenant General Frederick Morgan gets assigned as the Cossack Chief Planner. So this is when they first start to consider, all right, we're going to have to do this. And they look at Calais and all the other things and some of the things we talked about. Well, where could you go within airborne reach? What are the ports? How much German defenses are there? Where could we build up? How long would it take to... And we think about, landing ships on a beach that they, we always see they hit the beach, the door drops, everybody runs off, and then you follow the person that runs off. But if you ever think about the boat, it lifts back up its ramp, it goes back out, and an amphibious landing is a conveyor belt. So how fast can we turn that crank to get more forces ashore? So that planning starts well in advance of the need to actually need that intel, and that's why they have a little bit of time to do some creative things like tap into the wisdom of the crowd.
See what the problems are and anticipate.
Yeah.
Then how did they deal with the noise in the intelligence process? Because if you've got a year, you've got a lot of creativity. And I'll use the analogy of if you've got a year to plan a wedding, think about how much noise you're going to have in that moment. So
Especially from the mother-in-law.
I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to throw it out, right? Like if you have a year to plan an event, you can create a lot of noise and have a lot of what ifs in that moment. A lot of ahas, but a lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
How did they synthesize or figure out?
I got an idea. Thoughts on how they manage noise?
What other noise?
Well, so in part, noise is good, right? We are trying to hide where we're going to go. So what we are trying to do is actually If you think about all of the deception plans,
Because my question is, how did they make sure what they were getting was really intelligent and not
Yeah.
noise? Okay.
so to your point, I talked about the cracking of the German Enigma code. So we have Ultra. The British double cross system has also turned every spy in England into a double agent. So now they're feeding information in the back door, and they're able to tell when they think they read something, is it something that we gave them? So that's one of the ways we can go ahead and decrease some of the noise. The other thing is we have some time. So the idea that we can, we can send aircraft to go photograph that. They're going to send frogmen that'll actually go climb up on all those beaches and take sand samples to make sure that armored vehicles can drive across them. In that time, with that noise, there's also room to operate. And so what it does is become this very focused, this is the planning effort to try and decrease the noise and make sure we see the signal. Which is why when you think about it, though, there are really only so many places the Allies can land. It's Calais or Normandy.
And they started to use the noise in their. I mean, that noise was feedback that they were getting somewhat from the Germans. So they started to realize what the Germans were thinking, and they let the Germans think it. Okay, you think we're going to do this?
Right.
Okay, we'll reinforce that. So we're going to throw the noise back at you and use that to
confirm their suspicions.
Yeah,
And they get confirmation through Axis Sally, who does the radio broadcast saying, I know y'all are going to jump. Because she's been fed all this information and it's coming back. It's propaganda against the Allies and stuff. That, and they let bad things happen because they don't want to compromise the fact that they broke the code.
This is true.
And by then they had the 4-rotor. There was a 3-rotor code in the beginning. Now they have the 4-rotor code. That was the rate that Dieppe was designed to get, and they didn't get it. But they've got a 4-rotor code now, so they're able to break stuff. But they don't want the Germans to know that they're breaking, so they let, unfortunately, bad things happen from time to time rather than compromise their intelligence gathering system.
The last two things I'll throw at you is, first of all, this is the purpose of multi-sourced intelligence. So you're never really relying just on one thing. Oh, we heard through Ultra this. Hey, Resistance, can you confirm that the 91st is in the Cotentin? Oh, we can. So now we have nothing stands on its own, but you can always use the confirmation. And the other thing I would say, by late 1943, early 1944, the people doing this job are actually really good at it.
Obviously. But
And
how
they
would
work together, the British, the French that are in on this, and the Americans are a team. And that's Eisenhower. That's what he was good at. They're a team. Unlike the Germans, without the Italians, they're gone. But the Germans amongst themselves don't work that well together because of the guy at the top.
I sat next to his granddaughter. How would they communicate with the resistance?
Not Hitler.
Through enemies?
We're talking about,
Eisenhower, yeah. Sorry, I missed Hitler.
So to not go too far down the resistance rabbit hole, but the way this works is, in general, there were communications largely put out through the BBC on the 1st, 2nd, and I think 3rd of the month, and then they would do it on the 14th, 15th, and 16th of the month, a series of code words. So they was using code words.
Okay.
And so they did that. And then they also would use Jedburgh teams to drop radios and stuff back, as well as carrier pigeons, as they got information so that they could source information back over. And then every now and then some enterprising soul would go, this is too important, and they would hop in like a sailboat and try and make it across the English Channel.
Wow.
Well, and didn't they set something up where it was very classified, but they took a dead man and dressed him up and put him in the water with a briefcase and all kinds of papers that would lead the Germans in one direction.
This is true. This was for, it's a great point. This is part of that deception of creating noise. If you can't hide the signal, eventually, right, we're going to land millions of people. You can't hide that.
Right.
So if you can't hide the signal, you need to increase the noise. Well, that was during Operation Husky. That was trying to obfuscate where the Allies were going to land in 1943. The idea that to lead them away from Sicily was the man who never was. You're exactly right, though.
Yeah.
That deception operation gets scaled on a massive size for Overlord.
Okay.
fortitude.
So going back to what you said, setting us up. In the interwar years, this idea of dropping soldiers behind enemy lines is developed. Now, we have a great source and packet of materials that you guys gave us to read for this, but for the audience at home, was this used prior in the war and who was using airborne operations?
It's a great question, because fundamentally it gets to why did we create this? And part of this is the response to World War I. Everybody goes, that was static. We can't let that happen again. And so the big innovators are the Russians and then the Soviets. They do a lot on this. The Germans do a lot. And the Brits and the Americans are playing around with it. But it's really the beginning of World War II that kind of sells everybody on this. The Germans lying the glider on Ebony Mall as they are swinging around the Maginot Line, and everybody goes, oh my goodness. And then when the Germans drop into Crete, that enables the Germans to capture Crete. Now, we talk about this a lot. We can all look at the same event and arrive at different conclusions. Right. The Germans drop a division into Crete. The division, not unlike we were talking before, is surrounded, and they largely get annihilated. And Germany takes from that, we're never going to do that again. And the Americans and Brits see Crete, and we go, oh, we totally need to build airborne divisions. And so they see the same event, and they go in two different directions. But that's why we have multiple divisions at this point. And it's come along slowly. A little in North Africa. We drop a battalion in Sicily. It doesn't go well. But they're learning lessons. And these lessons will be applied now that we get to Normandy.
I found, this is kind of a little bit of an offshoot. I found some stuff where, going all the way back, Benjamin Franklin was watching the French launch people in balloons and said, if we could take 5,000 balloons and put 2 men in each balloon, drop them behind enemy lines, we can cause a whole lot of problems.
There it is.
And so, like, from the first time that we took flight in some way, people were thinking, how can I use it in the military and get people over there to mess with them in the back?
There it is.
So took a while, but we got it. Right. Before we get any further in, you said something before. You said Cossack. Mm-hmm. And that is an abbreviation for something. So because we're going to hear a lot of those, I'm sure, as we go through here. What does that stand for?
So this is really going to be the planning system for the invasion that's going to take place. All the primaries are not in the planning. They're fighting in North Africa and Sicily. So it's a staff that's out there representing Eisenhower that is sitting there going, we need to think as if we were Eisenhower. Where would we want to go land in Europe? And it's that staff.
And what does that stand for?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay. Chief of Staff of Supreme Allied Commander.
Thank you. Chief of Staff. I appreciate it.
I literally have a cheat sheet.
Thank you. That's not cheating. That's good work.
It's being prepared, Debbie. Thank you.
You're welcome. But that was a question I had, because, most of us have studied the Civil War. A chief of staff then seems very different than what it is in World War II, because I get the impression that, in the Civil War, it's kind of like their secretary. But here, he seems like he's his own independent thing.
But you have different levels of chief of staff.
Okay.
Eisenhower had his chief of staff, Bedell Smith, who was with him all the time, maybe more like we think of chief of staff. Yeah. When we think about Morgan, he is literally the chief of staff of this planning system, acting independently, planning because Eisenhower and none of his staff have time to do this. They're in the middle of a fight.
Okay.
So it is a little bit of a different bird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, please.
Please.
What was our whistle for? Ladies
Somebody
first.
go.
Okay. So we've got, this is, Airborne's new, right? Relatively new. It's evolving. We've got intelligence. We've got a date we're going to do this. How far in advance do we need to start setting this airborne up in terms of training to start to set it up to actually anticipate this?
I love this because, as I said, up to this point, we really have dropped like a battalion. We dropped the 504th.
So how many is in a battalion?
About
a layperson.
I think probably 1,600 or so, upwards of 3,000. We dropped the 505th and the 504th in Sicily. That was our biggest experiment to date. Did not go terribly well. I mean, we landed successfully, so I shouldn't say it was a failure, but there were a lot of lessons to learn. We lost some artistic impression points as we did this. So what that means, though, is for everybody that lands in Normandy, only really one element of the 6 regiments has combat experience. The other 5 don't. They've never dropped before. They're using those lessons gleaned from those other elements to train. And we're really talking is really 1943, 1944. And there's a series of exercises where they start off in small groups and they go up to entire division drops and multi-division drops to try and glean lessons. These are part of the exercise. Exercise Beaver, exercise Trousers, exercise Beaver 2, exercise Falcon. And what they're trying to do is wear out all their issues. And they learn piles of things. One of the early ones they learn like, hey, you guys can't just stand around. If your leaders don't show up, you guys need to go and get after this. We need more initiative at the lowest levels. The radios don't seem to work. The gliders are having a hard time landing. All of these things, then for the next one, they would learn, oh, wait, we could use some pathfinders. We could help out the landings that way. You know what we're running into is when we try and link up with a landing force and an airborne force, the radios aren't talking together. Oh, we probably need to fix that. So they are gleaning really practical lessons in all these exercises that they would also apply when they landed in Normandy. It's a really good question.
So what's the timeline? So that's a lot of effort. So when are they starting the...
So that's, well, if you think about it, March of 43, I think, is one of your first exercises with 101st.
Okay.
So you're starting to build these units that you think you're building combat capacity to provide yourself options for leaders, just in case we might need them for an invasion.
So you brought up pathfinders. Let's get into pathfinders.
Okay.
What are pathfinders? What's their purpose? And how does it all work together once the invasion starts?
Were you a Pathfinder?
No.
Okay. However,
Put your other hat on.
Oh, there it is.
I was a jump master.
There it is. Okay.
You give me a few more of those beers, I'll jump up there and keep on jumping.
I can remember them. I love it.
10 minutes!
Just as long as you don't do a French accent.
No.
But
Thanks,
you
Barbara.
used
That's okay.
Pathfinders, yeah?
We had Pathfinders. Wow. And we also had just regular old jump masters that aren't part of that particular jump.
Sure.
What Pathfinders do is they jump in first to a drop zone and they prepare the drop zone for the incoming sticks, the incoming planes with the paratroopers. They set up lights so they know where to drop. They have radio communication at some point with the people above. They have beacons down there. They're setting up the drop zone so when the planes come over, there's something down on the ground to guide them. Where do we need to drop these troops? So they're just not going in blind. They prep the drop zone. They go in first. It's a team of 20?
Not even that. Well, in World War II, not even that.
Yeah, it's small.
So it's a small group of people
Yeah.
with lights and radio equipment.
Beacons, yeah.
Yeah, what this happens, this is one of, you were talking about like how we learn lessons in Sicily. You know, imagine the drop zone in Sicily. If you were here, you go, the drop zone would be Gettysburg College, the Visitor Center, and Little Round Top. And what they got was the Visitor Center, New Oxford, and Hanover. And they go, hang on, we got to do way better than this. Yeah. So we should drop some guys early. And they could get down there and set up, they would have radio beacons. So what it really was a beacon, then that there would be a receiver in the aircraft to try and guide it in. On top of that, they had directional lights. Each regiment had a different color light so that nobody would be confused. And then they would also jump with a bunch of panels that, in case it was daytime, they could line them up to try and guide aircraft in. That we might do a better job of becoming more accurate.
And some of these beacons were passive, meaning they're not emitting a signal as soon as you get down and switch it on. It's waiting for it to connect with the device in the plane. So you're not emitting this signal too early. That way the enemy picks it up.
No, wait, is that the way it was then, or is that the way it is now?
Then they had these.
So they had.
I don't think all of them had it, but they did have these passive beacons that the plane had to be in a certain range before the beacon would start emitting a signal.
Yeah.
And it's picked up by the pilots.
That's fascinating.
So the Eureka beacon that they had, the numbers vary on this because it really depends on weather and battery life and all this other things.
Right.
But they talk about 10 miles. So you got to get within that window to begin with that you might receive it. And your point's valid. Not every aircraft had a receiver in it. In fact, arguably of the troop carrier planes, only 40% of them had navigators of any kind.
Only the lead plane.
The lead plane generally did.
Yeah.
But when you look across the entire air, it's less than 40% have navigators. And that's also true for the receiver.
But what if the lead goes down?
Well, so there's a backup plan, no doubt. But they're trying to think,
improvise and overcome.
They're trying to think through the problem, right? They go, well, you're our best pilot. We definitely want you to fly in the lead, and we're going to give you a navigator. That'll help you. Douds is terrible, so he'll fly on your wing. We don't want him to lead anything. If you go down, we're going to have you take your spot. So you'd have a fallout plan, and presumably you'd have a navigator and a beacon too.
So I have a question. So you have these lights directing the planes to the drop zones. Can you see those lights from the ground? So if I beam a light into the sky, can forces on the ground see that?
They were directional lights, so not like a spotlight, so that everybody could see it. If you were on that direction, you could. But what you get out of this is that sounds like a dangerous mission. Yeah. It is.
When they had the old movie premieres, they had the spotlights in the air, and for some reason down in Fayetteville, there was a club that had one of these.
Yeah, I remember that.
But you can't always see it. It has to be at a certain angle when you're on the ground. But from above, and the Allies pretty much had air superiority at that point, so there's no Germans flying up there at this point. So you could see it, I think. It depends on the angle which you're looking at. But just you'd have to be in the right spot at the right time to catch it.
But as I said, it's a dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, it's a dangerous mission.
The fortunate thing is, well, fortunate or unfortunate, most of them didn't get their lights up, so there were no lights shining anywhere anyway.
So it's all moot.
And I think we talked about the beacons at 10 years, or 10 years. At 10 miles, the beacons start to pick up, but within a mile or two, the beacons start to get confused and the signals get out of whack. So that's when the lights are supposed to kick in. The beacons get you directionally
or narrowing you down the funnel.
And then the lights or the ground is supposed to get you the rest of the way. But and I may be jumping ahead here, but the fact that most of the Pathfinders didn't complete their mission meant that most of that stuff wasn't working. So there were very few lights. I think I read one Pathfinder had everything set up the way they were supposed to.
Yeah.
And the rest of them had some stuff.
Were they even dropped where they were supposed to be dropped?
Yeah, so when we talk about this is the first drops on D-Day. So this is about 12:15 in the evening. There's about 120 Pathfinders writ large. Arguably about 38 get to where they're supposed to be. So let's just start with that. But then, you just hauled off out of this thing, probably landed in water. There went the radar, like friction reigns through all this thing. So then go, what if you're not at your right drop zone? Because then you got other guys going like, this looks like a pretty good place to land. We'll just set them up right here, right? Other guys land and there's Germans all around. They just end up fighting from the moment they land, never get anything up. And arguably only really one group that we know of gets them all up in the way that they're supposed to be.
So Lewis made the comment that we've got air superiority at this point. Why aren't there German planes out there? Because when I was looking at the maps and stuff, I was like, it looks like all of their defenses are along the beach. So clearly they expect something from the sea. But there's not a whole lot back here. Why is that? Or is it just a German arrogance thing? They would never try this because we wouldn't do it after Crete? Or is it,
this is really...
Because they've been at war for 5 years and...
Okay.
It's been a very deliberate effort. It really starts with the idea... the combined bomber offensive is announced at Casablanca conference, so January of 43, that, hey, we're going to start striking Germany day and night. By the time they get the Quebec conference, they come up with the point blank directive that says, not only are we going to bomb Germany, we're going to target German aircraft industries. So this puts a lot of pressure on Germany, which means ultimately what happens is between December of 1943 and May of 1944, we're bombing. That also brings German air up to shoot down the bombers. We now have developed not only the P-47, but the P-51, and that is an opportunity to shoot down that air. What does that mean for the German Air Force? They have about 2,700 pilots. They lose 99% of their pilots between December and May.
Wow.
Now, manufacturing, they're able to produce aircraft, but they're not able to produce good pilots. And so that's how aerial supremacy is achieved prior to D-Day. Because not only, this is prerequisites, in order to make an invasion work, you have to control the sea. That's the Battle of the Atlantic. That starts in 42, continues in effort all the way until the day of. And then you have to have control of the sky. And that really starts with a deliberate effort to knock Germany out of the sky.
That's called
it's a prerequisite. You have to do it long before day of need.
Yeah.
It's a good question. Sir.
George, just shout it out.
Like in the area here, the gentleman, like there was Jewish individuals that they would take who spoke German, and they would bring them to Fort Ritchie, and they would train them to work as spies. Did they have a significant impact on D-Day and the intelligence?
Boy,
I know in general they did, but did they on this event?
I can't. Does anybody else know? I can't comment with enough detail about the folks trained at Fort Ritchie, whether they contributed or not, or what they specifically contributed. Sorry,
Thanks
George.
For being honest.
You got the 101st Airborne, commanded by...
So 101st Airborne is going to be commanded by Maxwell Taylor.
And 82nd commanded by...
That's going to be commanded by...
The other guy.
Matthew Ridgway. Sorry.
All right. They're the ones who are going to be making the jumps. And they're just going to fly straight in, right?
No.
Oh.
What are you from, New Jersey?
That's what we do. We just go straight in. I got to go there. That's where I'm going.
Sorry, when General Morgan was having that planning, you weren't on that Zoom call. I got it. Yeah. One of the things we learned out of Sicily, too, was that the route of the airborne into Sicily flew over the English and American fleet. At the time, we did not have air superiority. The fleets had been bombed during the day. That night, when U.S. and British airborne came over, the British and American fleet shot down a large number of Allied aircraft. The lesson for that was, we're not going to fly over the fleet anymore. So if you look at the routing for this, the routing actually is going to take them off the southern coast of England. Then they're going to kind of make a right-hand turn. They're going to get to a point just about 50 miles or so, 57 miles off the coast. They're going to make a big left turn. It's going to send them just south of Jersey and Guernsey. That'll put them onto the western end of the Cotentin Peninsula, and that's their initial point. And then they're each about 20 and 21 miles respectively away from their drop zones. But that's the routing. If you think about it, they're going to join up at about 1,500 feet coming across the channel. They drop to 500 feet to stay below what few German radars are left. As they hit the coastline, they're going to climb up to 1,500 feet, and then that would keep them out of some of the small arms AAA that the Germans might fire. And as they approach the landing zone, then they were supposed to drop back down to 600 feet. So there is the routing of this, but there's also the vertical profile that they were going to fly in order to make this work.
And something to add to that, just because we were talking a little bit earlier, and for people listening and people here, even I was confused. A lot of times I think of France, and you think of France got this big point that comes out this way that's pointing to the west, right?
Yeah.
This is the Cotentin Peninsula. It's going north and south.
Yes.
So in this case, all the landings are coming in on the east coast. The airborne troops are flying in over the west coast.
The west coast.
And coming across. So it's an interesting thing. We're all used to Band of Brothers, and they're showing they're flying over the invasion fleet. Really, they kind of flew around the invasion fleet, and they dropped the troopers, and then the pilots would have flown over the invasion fleet after they had dropped all the soldiers. So that scene's always was misleading for me, thinking, oh, they're flying over, they're looking down on it, and So
to your point, as they're flying, all those scenes, when you read an account of this, they were in clear air over the channel, and it would have been as they flew around the fleet that they look out and they say, oh, it looks like you could walk across the channel. At least when you read the accounts, you can know about the point that they are referring to.
And it goes to a bigger point. How much of our understanding of this is shaped by things like Band of Brothers and Longest Day, and some of those inaccuracies for the sake of telling a story on film are really what get baked into the general populace.
Same thing with the movie Gettysburg.
Good point. Good point. It's true.
But
we're going to get to it, I think, in a lot of the things we talk. I know a lot of the things we prepared for are questions that almost you look at and like, I remember that in Band of Brothers. Right. And then you start saying, you're like, wait a second, maybe that. And so, a lot of that, so much of it is ingrained.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has watched Band of Brothers. Like, that's what all the airborne did. Everybody had that same experience.
Right.
Like, that was one company of one brigade of one of the divisions that land like totally, it's just it's a small issue or small thing of what actually happened. So
Yeah, I like it.
This is very precise planning. This is almost as precise planning, even more so than the GPS that we use on our phones right now, because GPS only takes us in one path, not elevations. How do you anticipate, because there's a lot, there's weather, like I'm just going to do the ones I can think of, and oh, by the way, the enemy has a boat in this, so how do you navigate, prepare for that and just go, here's your plan, and hopefully you get as close as possible?
If I may.
Yeah, please.
This isn't their first rodeo.
But it is their first rodeo.
No, they've done things on a smaller scale. They've already had airborne operations. They've already invaded Italy, and they're driving up the boot. The Americans invaded North Africa, so they've landed ashore. It might not be the Germans you're going up against on the Atlantic Wall, but it's just on a much bigger scale. And I think it can't be underestimated the partnership between the Brits and the Americans and some of the French, how they're all working together. They're having these meetings, and they're coming out of these meetings. This is the plan, and we're under the other Lee Mallory. We're behind this plan.
Well, we'll come back to
And
As somebody's grandfather said, plans are indispensable. Where planning's indispensable, but plans are useless.
but
So
they
help
know,
me.
they know that. But there is some trepidation, and Eisenhower has a note in his pocket. If things don't go wrong, he's got the Lincoln note.
Yeah.
He's got this note that this failure is with me. Paraphrase. But you got to try it. You have to invade that coast, and this is the best plan that they can come up with.
I'm not questioning the plan. I'm questioning how in the plan do you plan in training a group of individuals to alter when the plan isn't.
No, that's a really good question. So when we think about, we talked about the airborne divisions are mostly new. So are most of the troop carrier folks. We have some experience, but what we have done is a lot more training. That was one of the things we learned, like, hey, we better do better with navigation. We got to do better with night navigation. We got to do better with night formation flying. And so when you think about it, and we'll see this perhaps when we get to the critique of how scattered they were, and everybody turns around and go, pilots are to blame. Well, some, but the average troop carrier pilot had about 850 hours, a lot of it at night. They have been training for this because this is the expectation of the environment we're going to face. So they would have flown through clouds, presumably someday on training. Your point is valid about this growing amount of friction that they would face. Clouds, Germans, but this is why you try and do realistic training. It's the best that they can hope for.
That was
Your
one of the
training
notes
is based on the things that don't go wrong in Sicily, in Italy, and stuff like that. Lessons learned. We apply them to your next big event.
And that was one of the notes that I wrote. And I used to say this with my Boy Scouts. The Boy Scout motto is be prepared. No, the real motto is be prepared to be unprepared.
Yes.
Yeah. Something's going to happen that is not the way you expect it to be. That's what you need to be prepared to react to it and think through that.
So let's talk about that, the operational philosophy of these airport divisions. You get in the air, you drop on the ground. What's expected of you as soon as you hit that ground?
Yeah, okay, so the idea of the moment you hit the ground, you're going to try and find your other paratroopers. Then they form famous, what we would call LGOPs, little groups of paratroopers, that go around, and ultimately when little groups of paratroopers join up, you have a mission to go accomplish. In the meantime, I've never been to airborne school, but apparently they teach every paratrooper, the first thing you do when you hit the ground is find telegraph wires and cut them. Because these guys all start doing that too, which is just generally starts sowing confusion. But the idea is you're not just back there doing activity for activity's sake. You've been dropped back there to do a specific task. So gather as many people as you can. When you get to the time that it's time to go, you need to go accomplish that mission with what you have.
The first thing is to get out of that chute, because that's a problem too at times. And the Brits use a single release thing. The Americans aren't sold on that. So some of them are having problems with the multi-releases to get out of the chute. If it's windy, if you don't get out of that chute's gonna re-balloon up and it's gonna pull you. So you gotta get out of the chute. We didn't cut telegraph wires when I jumped. We'd have got in trouble.
That's a good point.
But
I kid around. I say this jokingly.
Yeah, I'm joking too.
Everybody.
Yeah. But your mission, and they've studied these sand tables so much, they have it memorized where they're supposed to go. No matter if they're dropped in the wrong spot or not, they've studied enough, and that's part of the preparation. Have every soldier familiar, and that's the thing with the Allies, everybody knows what everybody's mission is. The Germans like to keep things to themselves within divisions and such because they're hoarding information. Information is power in the Third Reich. But the Allies know everybody's mission, so when they jump, even if they don't land in their area, they know what area they're in because they've studied these sand tables so much that it's emblazoned in their mind, and they know what to go do. Even if it wasn't their stated objective, if they're closer to this other one, I'll go help with that.
And for the benefit of the listeners and viewers at home, what's a sand table?
Oh, yeah. So sand table is you would build a vertical map. Basically, take a topographical map. Instead of envisioning what that looks like, you take, and they can be extremely large, but build a sand table so the hills look like the hills, and there's little towns on it, and the road networks on it, and the railroad tracks are on it, and all that. And then you put your landing zone is here, so you can go, well, look, there's a church right there, and then they'll have a picture next to that, so you could look at the picture. And then what if you're on the other side? Oh, we're definitely going to have to cross the tracks then if we get. So you start to familiarize yourself not just with your area, but the entire area, that you might better be able to locate yourself, orient, and then start to move to your objective.
Thank you for making it this far. Just want to remind you that Tavern Talks would not be possible without the support of the Digital History Pioneers Foundation. To help fund a second season of Tavern Talks, please make a donation to DHP by scanning the QR code below. Thank you, and now, back to the tavern.
On the 28th, what happens?
Well, so this becomes an interesting one about all your map study and terrain study. That holds true for the 101st, but on the 28th of May, they shift the 82nd Airborne drop zones. So all that study you put in, nice work. Forget that. Study a whole new set because there's some more friction for you. Study a whole new set of landing zones and drop zones for you to go ahead and use.
Was there any of the French resistance or any of the civilians involved in helping them when they would land?
So the stories are multitude of, at some point they're like, I don't know where I am. And so they kind of look anybody around, walk up to the door, knock on the door and go, hey, where are we? And some Frenchman will put on the map and they go, thank you very much. Head on down the road. So there's memorizing sand tables, and then there's at some point, screw it, I need to get to where I need to go.
I need to figure this out quicker.
That's exactly right.
Did the 101st and 82nd aircrafts, did they work together to fly down?
So there were enough aircraft that the way this would work is if you were in the 82nd, you would fly in the same aircraft all the time.
Okay.
If we were in the 101st, we would fly in the same. So now we had a relationship. This is one of the things we also learned earlier. Hey, we can't just slap this all together at the last minute. We've got to get used to working together. So in a sense, they are, because the two divisions are deconflicted in time by about an hour. But you would have always worked with the people you flew with, and I would have always worked with the people I fly with, and that way we have a concentrated team. Does that make sense?
All right.
Okay.
And then
go ahead.
So when they do get to the ground, and we haven't quite gotten to this yet, but because they do get scattered and they start having to connect with different people, is that going to cause problems? Where, okay, I've always worked with these people, but I can't find any of these people.
It's a yes and no, right? There's some point in this of like, hey, I've landed way, Douds. I landed way out for where I was supposed to be. Well, I'm kind of, walking through the woods, and all of a sudden I run into some people, and you go, well, hey, we only got like a dozen of us. We got a mission that's like around the corner. You're coming with us because I'm 9 miles away. I'm never going to make it to mine, so I'm going to go hop in with him. Now, at some point you go, no, I can't do this. I got 9 miles to go get and so there are those trade-offs being made, little teams forming, even with people that aren't even in the same regimental combat team, that are not on the same. That happens all throughout Normandy.
There's another thing that we should introduce probably is the gliders.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Like, we got the gliders.
Okay.
Yeah.
If paratroopers ultimately we're going to drop individual men out of an airplane. That's great, but when they all get down there, they're all going to be spread out. The correction for this is, how do I keep everybody together? We don't have the helicopter yet, so we're going to put them all in a glider. That allows us to concentrate people at once, and the other thing it allows us to do is drop things that we can't drop in a parachute. Mostly that's artillery, 75 millimeter pack howitzers, 57 millimeter anti-tank guns, big deal because the Germans have armor. That's bad for paratroopers. Jeeps, medical systems, larger radios. Once you start talking bigger and heavier, gliders allow us to do that.
So it's supplies and larger weapons.
Yep, and complementary to the paratroopers.
Right.
Meant to serve.
Was that more complicated? Who did better, the gliders or the paratroopers in the landings?
Well, so do we want to talk about the scatter thing?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the scatter thing. All right, because everybody pulls out the map and go, everybody scattered. I would like to push back on this just a hair. Because we look at the map with the dots all over and go, they're everywhere. Well, are they?
Eric and I would like to join you in that. Right?
I think, by statistically speaking, 10% hit their landing zone, drop zone. 30% are within a mile. 20% are within 2 miles. So already 60% are within 2 miles. The other 25% are within 5. Airborne guys are in great shape. So you've landed at 1 o'clock in the morning. You've got 5 hours to make 5 miles. What's the problem? Right. Moreover, think about the whole compression of this thing. We say slow down to 110 knots. Let's, for sake of math, let's call it 120 knots. 120 knots, you're doing 2 miles a minute. It's a mile every 30 seconds. Let's call it on average 16 to 18 guys in a plane. Everybody gets out in 1 second with 18 people. You're spread out over half mile. Everybody really going to get out in 1 second when a combat drone? I'm guessing not. So let's call it 2 seconds. Now you're just spread out over a mile. Let's say somebody tripped, or your bag didn't go in, or the first kid going through the door gets his rifle stuck. And now all of a sudden it's 4 seconds between guys. Now you're spread out over 2 miles. I would argue dispersion is part of the deal.
Yeah.
You're already spread out over 2 miles. So I'll start with that. Now, let's talk weather. Weather's obviously a problem. Okay, if you're flying along and you run into weather and you're an aviator, what do?
Go around
Go up.
the weather.
Suck it up and fly through the weather. You're an aviator. Do your job. No, I'm kidding.
You adjust for this.
No, we don't send out any recon aircraft, so when they hit the cloud bank along the Cotentin Peninsula, many are surprised. And the cloud deck goes anywhere from 300 feet up to about 2,500 feet. So when they hit the clouds, all of a sudden these formations, if you lose sight of that wingtip light, now you know you're in pretty close formation. Are you going to stay where you're doing? The will to live tells you to do what?
Move.
Get out of there.
Turn away, climb or descend. Okay, so now that you have formations doing that, and then people start to shoot at you. So is it a hold what you got? Just fly through as fast as you can? That's probably part of it. Speed is life, so faster is better. But also, if somebody's shooting at you, you can see it if you're going to try and jink. Yeah. How are we doing to get inside those radio beacons that were pretty narrow?
Not great.
Yeah. So one of the jumps that we actually have that goes really well is the 505th. What their aviators do is they see the cloud bank coming and they climb up before they hit it. That's how they all stay together. Everybody else finds themselves in clouds. Now everybody's starting to disperse. Radio silence. We're not getting on our radios to reform. So that goes ahead and causes dispersion. Germans firing, more friction. And then the last part is the terrain. Right? We talk about this, all these little farm fields. I mean, to your point, you land, you get out a parachute, now all of a sudden you're in a field the size of this room, surrounded by trees. If I make it to the edge of this field and I climb over the hedgerow, I'm in another field that's this size. And I'm spread out just for the 18 people across 2 miles. How long does it take you to get back together?
Yeah.
So I would argue dispersion is not just aviators, that's part of it, but it's the weather, it's the Germans, and it is the terrain. The terrain allows this. But I would if you really take a look at the maps, 60% within 2 miles, I'd say that's pretty damn good.
Yeah. And I've heard a couple other things that I've heard. One, on the speed in particular, the planes were overloaded. Now, I saw it today. I walked around Eisenhower Farm. I saw these really nice displays of all the gear that the troopers were taking on a jump. But then, now, the leg bag is a whole other thing we'll stay away from that. But these guys are shoving everything they can in their pockets because they're going to be stuck in who knows where for how long. They're taking all this extra stuff. And the planes, while they're supposed to fly at a certain speed to drop, they need to actually fly faster to stay aloft because they're carrying a lot more weight than what they had. So now you've got even more dispersion in it. And then on top of that, you're dropping into these places. You're dropping into the bocage. We haven't used that word yet. We're dropping in. And so now you're dropping one guy in a 1 acre field with walls around it. And he's like, and so now you get the Band of Brothers guys are all saying, I was dropped and nobody was around and I couldn't find them. And that's not just them that said it. There were a lot of veterans that I didn't know where anybody was. Well, it's because you were dropped inside a place with walls. And so most of them got to where they went. And, again, going back to Band of Brothers, what did they do all the time? Curry. What they do all the time? Run 3 miles up, 3 miles back. And so these guys were used to running and moving those distances.
And they're used to, before this operation, part of their training is marching a ton of miles with all this stuff on your back that you're jumping with. And so they're used to marching a ton of miles with a bunch of stuff on their back.
Yeah.
And going back to the aviators, this is a part that I'm not too familiar with. So my father, who's in aviation, I actually had to call him and be like, can you help walk me through some of this? And he said that with the training they had, the 850 hours, as you said, basically the pilots are like race car drivers. They know what their machine can do under certain circumstances. They're familiar with it. They can feel it. They understand it. They know what they're doing to a certain degree. And with all that weight you're talking about, and especially if it's shifting around, it changes the center of gravity of the airplane. So the pilot is his objective is to get to the landing zone, but to make sure he gets his cargo to where it needs to go, he's going to speed up to avoid a stall.
Sure.
If you stall, you could lose the whole plane.
Right.
So speeding up to avoid a stall, if it's slowed down, the likelihood of stalling is much higher. So speeding up is not about being afraid about being shot at necessarily. It's about, I need to get my guys to where they need to go.
That's a good point.
And then you're worried about Rebecca beacons that aren't there and lights that aren't there. And you went into a fog bank that, the Pathfinders didn't tell you was there whenever they flew through it. And so they're not, and so you've got all these things happening and it's real time and you've got to make decisions right now.
But if we can bring it back full circle, if you're doing your planning, the Boy Scouts, right? Unplanned, right? You plan for the unplanned. There's enough of that, and the outcome is within the margin of error, and it's within a margin of error that you can correct because they're exercised enough that you're able to correct it enough to do it within several.
Yeah, and I think
it's not much time to correct it, assuming that you can find the people through the walls of trees.
And I think that's Doug's point on the statistics of where they actually do drop. So yeah, there's all these things that go on, and there's sending people here, and you get this spread out. But at the end of the day, they've studied their mission. They know what they're supposed to do. And yeah, you get the guys that are dropped 10 miles away. Right. There's reports of people that are dropped in the ocean. So yeah, you get those, but that's the exception to the rule. Most of them were dropped here, and to your point, that planning helped them overcome those challenges and still get to, then start to try to achieve their missions and do what they're supposed to do.
You want to get to the point where when things don't go right, your training takes over.
Yeah.
And your training is what's going to get you through and get the mission accomplished.
Doug, would it be better to be dropped where you're kind of all a little scattered from each other as opposed to a full stick being dropped square in the middle of an enemy position?
Yeah, so this is the glider problem.
Yeah.
Gliders are great because everybody's all together right until the glider runs into a wall, and then everybody gets killed.
Right.
So spread out all of a sudden seems like a good idea. Yeah, there's pluses and minuses of both, and then you could argue that gliders are paired with paratroopers to account for the best of both, or perhaps mitigate the worst of both.
Yeah. Okay. But did the Army have a philosophy on that? Whether you'd want to be spread out or all...
They would argue closer together is better. It is the lesson learned of every exercise of we need more concentration, we need better navigation, they got to be closer together is the lesson that they...
Closer together, but still a little...
I mean, wasn't it was it guys from the 505th that were all dropped literally right on top of the German? I mean, literally right in the middle of it.
St. Mary Glees.
St. Mary Glees.
Which they achieve their objective. So
Yeah.
Did they ever communicate with each other a little bit different aircrafts? What's going on? What's the plan?
It's a really good question, and this is when I think of the. To your point, if you're a conscientious aviator, and you go, "Holy cow, we just hit the cloud bank," I'm going to tell radio silence. We don't want to tip the Germans that this is all happening, so they didn't. They didn't talk on the radio. The Pathfinder aircraft didn't tell the rest of the carrier stream that there was a cloud bank. Nobody was talking on the radio like, hey, everybody on the left go high and turn left. Everybody on the right go low and turn right. They didn't do that. Or, hey, I'm going to climb up at 25,000 feet. Let's join up and all that. They didn't talk on the radio because they didn't want to give up the surprise. So they didn't. How painful would that have been?
Yeah.
So now that they're starting to drop, how many of them survive that initial drop? Like, are there casualties right from the get-go of someone whose parachute doesn't open, or, they run into something they don't expect? Is there enough, are they caught in the air by that anti-aircraft
Yeah,
fire?
so it's a good question, and the numbers on this vary a little bit. I think nobody was supposed to be brought back. About 90 are. Most of the guys that get wounded in the aircraft. If you think about all of the, nearly 13,000 people brought over there to go ahead and jump, 98% of them go out of an aircraft.
what?
Of those, somewhere probably about 2% are killed.
Wow.
Which statistically speaking was probably about right. And let's talk about the water. People talk about this a lot, flooded fields, how many people drown. You guys have read a lot of counts. How many people you think drown?
Less than 100.
About 60.
Yeah,
Is the number I heard.
I'd throw it even lower.
I'm going to say 59.
Closest without going over.
Without
Yeah, it's
going over,
Price is Right
It's
rules.
definitely 30. Okay. So I think the number is significantly less than people say in flooded fields. I mean, it's horrific, don't get me wrong. But most people make it out of an aircraft. Statistically speaking, some will definitely die. And of course, realize on the front side, if you were 101st, there wasn't as much anti-aircraft fire as if you were in the 82nd. Because now everybody's seen a stream of aircraft go over for an hour. Oh, this is happening. Everybody's awake.
Yeah.
So I do have some numbers if you'd
Shoot.
like them. So this is what I got. How accurate it is, I don't know. Just on D-Day alone. So this isn't necessarily the drop. This is throughout D-Day. 101st had about 1,240 casualties, 182 killed, 557 wounded, 501 missing. The 82nd, very similar, 1,259, and very similar percentages to killed, wounded, and missing. So
And some of those
you're
missing
looking
are
at
gonna
about
end up
20
killed.
between the two airborne divisions. You're looking at about 2,500 casualties. And now whether or not you break that down to, is it did that happen during the drop? Because then you've got whether we get into it, you've got how many of the planes were damaged versus how many were actually shot down. There's a lot of those other things that happen, but that's the numbers I have.
That's good.
We might be traveling down the path of folklore, but with Dwight Eisenhower, was he? My understanding from what I've read is the fact that was very engaging with the enlisted men. He was all about interacting with them and being a part of them and understanding of his dynamic of being a soldier and what it was them being a soldier and the level of respect he had for them. Is that accurate, or is that more anecdotal, feel good kind of Paul Bunyan-ish type stuff?
Yeah, can I take a long road to a small house on this one?
Please.
All right. If you think about it, his chief, we brought him up before, his chief deputy and an aviator, Lee Mallory, comes to him on the 29th of May and says, hey, I've been running the numbers on this. You're going to lose 50% of your paratroopers. You're going to lose 75% of your gliders. It's a disaster. You can't do this. And Ike's like, holy cow, this is a big part of our plan. And he goes, okay, well, thanks for telling me, And the 30th, he comes back and goes, hey, listen, I'm sorry I screwed up my numbers. I was totally wrong. You're going to lose 75% of the airborne, and you're going to lose 90% of the gliders. It's a disaster. Eisenhower was asked this question in 1947 by a group of women journalists. And the question was, what's the toughest decision you made during the war? And this is the story he told. He goes, what am I going to do? In his book, he calls this a soul-racking decision. And he starts to think about it. And, Montgomery said senior command, strategic command. It really requires a senior leader to sit at the apex and keep a detached view of the intricate whole. And so as Eisenhower thinks about this, he goes, look, if we're going to land in Normandy, we need Utah Beach because we need Cherbourg. If we're going to land in Utah Beach, we need the airborne in order to get them off the beach. Therefore, we need to go anyway. So this is why I find that picture, the famous photo of Eisenhower meeting with paratroopers, it's so compelling, right? Because he makes the call, we're going, right? He spends the rest of that day, and then where's he go? He goes and meets with paratroopers. Why? Because in the back of his mind, 75% of those guys are not coming back. The idea that he's so engaging with them, you talk about mask of command, right? He's devastated. He's smoking 60 cigarettes a day, right? Gets out of the back of that car, has to walk past a line, put on that optimistic Kansas smile, and go, hey, where are you from? And look those kids in the eye. And then stand there at the airfield, watch the last red taillight disappear into the inky black, and know, that's my call.
Have you heard...
George, I should have asked Susan that at that dinner.
But she's told the story. Because we were talking about this earlier. It's one of my favorite stories that I've
She won't answer my calls,
Yeah,
so
she went
I
over
would.
and
Yeah,
talked
no,
to-
but she tells the story of the famous photo and the handshake,
Yeah.
and that later in time they've connected, and that individual finds her somehow and tells her what they talked about, and it was fly fishing.
Fly fishing.
And so, like, to your point of mask of command, he knows that he's having a conversation, and he's not trying, you guys are going to do great. He's not talking about the battle, because he knows they all know what they've signed up to do. And the way she tells the story is he's there to just connect and talk about their humanity and who they are and wish them luck. And does somebody remember what they said back to him was, we've got this? Or something like that?
And ultimately he says, hey, the visit was better for me.
Yeah.
Because they were like, what are you worried about? We got this. And he said he walked away better for the conversation. The interesting thing is, though, I also find this to be, if you're Lee Mallory and you gave the boss that advice, right? You put your professionalism on the line. You're the deputy of this thing, and the boss trusts you. So he flies a bunch of reconnaissance flights over first thing in the morning on June 6th. And the note he sends back over is, hey, it looks like it's gone way better than we thought. And then on the 8th, Lee Mallory will write him a note. He says, I'm more happy than you could know that I was wrong. You deserve all the credit for the courage of your decision. Lee's aide, Captain Butcher, says, how can you stay angry at a guy like that? Yeah. It's a really good story. You were talking about team. Yeah. He's an Englishman having to work for Eisenhower. This command team has to keep going and fight the rest of the war. That little snapshot tells you volumes about where the team is. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for asking that question.
Didn't Eisenhower say to him at some point, like, quit it with the gloom?
Yeah.
Enough.
Yeah. Well, he's a big, pessimist never won a war. So, smiles, everyone.
Well, I mean, it's not fun being around somebody like that. And when you're trying to plan something gargantuan like this, it's good. You said it once. It's in the back of my head. I'm thinking about it. It's a consideration. Every time I see you, I don't need to hear about this.
He reminds me a bit of McClellan. Lee Mallory, who's always, inflating the numbers in front of him, and we've got Lee Mallory going, no, it's going to be worse, it's going to be worse.
Montgomery would agree with you because he would call Lee Mallory a gutless bugger who used to rub everybody wrong.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a lot of words. But there's a leadership lesson in this, right? Because we all at this table take whatever decisions we're here because we take our decisions seriously, but we need to also take our optimism and sense of humor seriously, because if you're going to be successful and be a leader, you're going to have to figure out your way through the clouds. Yeah. And you're going to have to figure out your way through the optimism. And there's a difference between reality and pessimism. And there's many instances that they can be guised as the same thing.
Oh, believe me, people call me a pessimist all the time, and I'm like, no, I'm just being realistic. I think I am, and they think I'm a pessimist.
That almost is the difference between the Americans and Allies and the Germans.
Yeah. Yes.
If you think about it, how many Germans could literally trust each other?
Yeah.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
their
and
whole
you
system was
expect
about
them to be
distrust.
the team to come up with a plan like this. Instead, it's the Allies and the Americans and those that put things together, trust each other, have their sense of humor, and
Because only optimists would think of the postcard solution.
Right.
Only
Exactly.
optimists would think
Yeah.
of the
Right.
landing solution.
And reaching beyond your team for those that want to have input and
Well,
want to be a part of this.
And not only optimists, but a good leader listens to everybody on his team.
Oh, so
right?
we shouldn't miss this, right?
Yeah.
He created a culture.
Yes.
Where all the way up to the end,
Yeah.
that guy could bring him that
Right.
information. But it's also when we should be careful whenever we get to Eisenhower and we go, oh, you know what he was? He was the good CEO that kept the Allies together. And he would go, you're kidding me, right? I own that decision. I own the weather decision to invade. I own that airborne drop. Those are commander decisions.
Yeah.
That's not CEO decisions.
Right.
But he was a CEO that put that structure in place. Let's not take that away from him because he came into a situation that wanted everybody to and we live this in our lives, every decision by committee. And he said, if you're going to be so precise and figure out how things are going to happen, that's not success. And he was willing to bear that decision.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, not only have you got, they trust each other, but they trust each other enough to, yes, say, oh, I'm not sure this is going to work, but also then, I was wrong.
Yeah,
Like you said,
yeah.
the Germans wouldn't have done that.
No.
They'd have just been blaming each other for what was going
Lee
on.
Mallory
Whereas
committed
here-
suicide.
Lee Mallory's out. He never gets the chance to say I was wrong.
Yeah.
I think out would be the nicest way to say it.
They're not all sent to the camps. Broomstead gets fired 4 or 5 times, and he's still commander in the West by the time of D-Day. So.
Yes.
So we mentioned the Allies, but our paratroopers aren't the only ones dropping from the sky. So we should be fair and probably talk about the other ones.
Yeah.
Sure, the British
I mean,
are
just briefly.
Yeah, so in the same way that this landing is taking place on the other flank, on the very eastern flank, the British are also dropping, right? They're dropping.
Don't they drop first?
The times are about the same. If you think about our Pathfinders drop about 12:15, I think the Pegasus Bridge falls at 12:16.
Yeah.
So they are also using their paratroopers to do all these specified tasks, mostly to secure the Caen Canal and the Caen River and the Douds River to make sure that the Germans can't counterattack into the flank, secure one set of bridges so that the British might be able to break out, and they have almost the exact kind of mission that the Americans do. They're also taking out batteries like the Merivale Battery. They're also spread out, not perhaps as bad as the Americans, but nonetheless, they end up ad hocery putting teams together to make all their missions happen too.
And they're successful.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
And so how, I probably missed this, how close are they to the American drop zones?
The British drop zones?
Yes.
They're 50 miles away. If you think about the whole landing from Utah Beach over to Sword Beach is 50 miles. These airborne drops are on the outside of those. It's a long way away. The routing is almost the same as well. Comes straight across and then left turn back out because they're not flying over the fleet either.
So they can't coordinate in any way. There's too much between them. So they're on their own.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They dropped these fake paratroopers called Ruperts.
Ruperts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to next.
Yeah.
My note.
Yeah.
I took my note.
I'm sorry. Edit
He
that out.
stole it from all of us. That was my next question. Was
Cut
Rupert.
that out and just put Eric in there.
Here, I'll move my mouth.
I'm not saying another word.
Can you edit that?
Yeah, we'll get that. Yeah. I'm going to zoom in on you. You look like a goldfish.
What the Germans call them?
Rupert.
Dummi-Puppen?
Who's it?
Puppen. The last word in the way the
Dummi.
Germans described them was Dummi-Puppen. Something like, we called them Ruperts, they called them Dummi-Puppen.
Do you know what that is?
Something like that.
I'm going to
Doing
take your
pooping?
word for it.
There's a great scene in The Longest Day where the
Yeah.
German officer brings in the dummy and says,
Well, that's- yeah.
here's your
Yeah,
paratroopers.
Of course, they don't look like that at all. That's
No,
another
yeah.
one of those movie pieces,
Yeah.
right? They were made out of burlap. And a Rupert was like a name that the British gave to very stodgy officers and all that.
Yeah.
And they were meant to blow up when they landed. So they blew up when they landed. It sounded like gunfire, but then it also destroyed the evidence so that hopefully they wouldn't find any.
Something else to add, because I think it's a
So
really
wait.
neat-
I'm sorry. Wait. For the sake of people at home who don't know what you just said, they were dummies.
Yes.
Yes. So Ruperts were dummies that the British dropped. Go.
3 foot tall burlap.
They were Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, made
That's the word you were thinking of, Barbara. Oompa Loompa.
literally made in a factory in New Jersey. And the idea was there was
Finally did something right.
You made dummies.
next year.
Bunch of dummies over there. We got a factory of dummies.
So what they do is
Podcast.
they drop them over by Westerham, further east. They drop them out on like Hill 112 south of Caen, which basically freezes like some German Panzer units out there. They don't drop one miss. There's it's Operation Titanic. There's 4 pieces to it. One doesn't go. This is the one over on the British side. And one they drop down on the southern side of Carentan. And that actually will get, that will pull German reserves to the south. It basically pulls the reserves out of the fight. It's one more way to try and stack the deck for this landing.
And prepare for the friction.
Yeah, right.
And what?
Generating friction in their side. That's the other idea. Yeah.
Did you say something? Go ahead.
I was about to.
Go.
So, is there a difference in, once they're on the ground, the way the Americans innovate and go, okay, things have changed, here's how we fix it. Is there a difference in philosophy between the Americans and the British when they get on the ground and go, things have changed, how do we fix it? Do they have different ways of looking at this or attitudes about, like, we just got to make this work? Because they're 2 different cultures.
You're
They
right.
think differently.
You're right. Except that I would argue that the format of being a paratrooper is so similar that they have to do the same.
Okay.
And even the caste system that we normally think about, like the British stodgy, they've now become an industrial meritocracy too. People that couldn't get promoted above corporal in the First War are now major. When we think about the landing at Pegasus Bridge, this was a guy who World War I didn't make it, becomes a London cop. He's such a good leader. He's now a major because he gets things done. So they have taken parts of us, and out of necessity, we've taken parts of them, they've taken parts of us.
Okay.
And to be a paratrooper, you have to be eminently flexible.
The other, what's it called? The aircraft, the pilots, and the guys who are in charge of the planes, do they communicate with each other where the Germans are?
No.
No?
They don't talk. They are so worried about giving up surprise and the fear that that might put at risk the guys that just jumped out, that they don't talk.
But even after the fact, after the drop, was there any communication?
No, as long as the stream was going on, they let it all go. And I'm sure when they got back and landed, they all went, here was one, here was German, there's some AAA there. Did you see that? Oh, I got that. What did you, like any other debrief, but not while it's happening, not real time.
Because the bombers come in
Yeah.
when the next day.
The next morning.
Yeah, B-26 Marauders come over and they're starting to bomb.
They're bombing the beach.
Beaches.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that makes more sense.
It's like, geez, behind the lines, you could be getting your own men.
We haven't really talked too terribly much about this, but how tight, because I made a note of that, this timeline is tight. They're expected to have certain things done within like 15, 20 minutes of when they jump. So what time frame are we talking in terms of they get in the planes and they go to they're on the ground accomplishing things?
And let me add to her question, time frame, and then what are the missions they have to, some of the missions that they have to accomplish.
That's good.
And accomplish, and then fail.
Okay.
Some of the ones they fail.
So let's talk with the missions they have to accomplish. Let's just start with our intent going into this. When we think about the 101st, they are closer to Utah Beach. I told you Utah Beach is an island for the most part, with surrounded by flooded fields, but there's causeways that lead off of it, 4 major ones. And one of the 101st missions is to secure those 4 causeways to allow the 4th Division landing on Utah Beach to get off the beach. Just inside of those causeways, there's a ridge line. There's a bunch of German artillery on it. They need to silence a pile of that German artillery. The other mission that they have is on the southern end of the landing area. This is along the Douve River. Secure 2 bridges, secure the locks that enabled the flooding of those fields, and also sever the highway between Carentan and Saint-Côme-du-Mont, which is a north-south running road that eventually leads to St. Mary-Église. We're trying to prevent how well the Germans move back across their space. Okay. 101st missions. 82nd mission. Secure St. Mary Glees, not unlike Gettysburg, a town with 5 roads that radiate out of it, a railroad. It is the route up to Cherbourg. And then, just to the west of it, it crosses over the Meurthe River on 2 little bridges at Lafayette and Chef du Pont. Secure those 2 bridges. 2, deny German counterattacks and also facilitate when the U.S. finally lands that they can break out of this bridgehead and head up to Cherbourg. Those are the missions that the airborne are given.
Now, which ones did they succeed at and which ones did they fail?
So let's call the Pathfinders didn't work. Good idea, tried their best. We're going to put that one in the keep working on it category. They secure all 4 causeways. Successful, was super important. Securing the batteries off of the ridgeline, for the most part, successful. Everybody knows the winter story. There's other batteries up there that get secured. The southern edge of the landing area is probably the worst piece that they don't necessarily accomplish. This is where the German 6th Fallschirmjäger regiment is. This is German paratroopers that are there. They know they're coming. They see them coming, light a building on fire. These are Pathfinders that fight from the minute they land. They're able to secure, and they lose. You were talking losses. One of those regiments loses its regimental commander, its XO, and all of its staff on the jump, or shortly after they land. I think it's Captain Shettle, who's their battalion S3, is the kid that will get like 20 people together and go secure the 2 bridges. Wow. The 101st will secure the locks. They're not able to sever the highway. They're unable to take Saint-Côme-du-Mont. Again, Fallschirmjäger units there. Unsuccessful.
But the locks, they don't get them in time before they don't get them working. They're not working whenever they can.
Yeah, the fact is the locks were, the way they flood this is, the locks are part of a system to allow when it's low tide, you open the locks, all the water drains out, now you have arable fields. The Germans just reverse the process. When it's high tide, they open the locks, they close it, and they keep flooding the fields. You couldn't have unflooded the fields in a day. Yeah. But that's the idea, though. It's one of the thoughts.
Yeah.
80 St. Mary Glees, secure. They'll fight for 3 days to secure Lafayette Causeway. Massive fight. And Chef du Pont. Arguably, that is a mixed bag because it really does take part of the 4th Division to arrive there to help secure those. So some things probably give up some artistic points in there, but for the big things that really matter, they are successful.
So what time are they taking off? And like how?
So about 11:30 at night, they take off. You have 101st landing about 1:30. You have the 82nd landing about 2:30, about an hour separated. The big time everybody has in mind is 05:58, sunrise. 06:30, landing at Utah Beach. So if your job is to secure a battery, you got to have that battery secured before sunrise because they'll start shooting the ships as they make the landing. So you have a timeline that you think you should get there, but I think you have some drop dead timelines in your mind's eye, and I would argue sunrise and 6:30.
And going to that, so just before 6 o'clock sunrise, by 6 o'clock, how many of each division are assembled to attempt these tasks?
Yeah, maybe a third of each division. Maybe a third. This is that spread out problem. How fast can we join together?
So they're already past that timeline of...
Oh, no, guys are making this happen. You guys are all familiar with Band of Brothers and, Winters. He's got a dozen dudes. Like...
Some of them are from the 82nd.
Yeah, some are from a different unit.
Did that really happen? They intermingled that
when people are all joined over, you're like, hey, Private, where are you going? Yeah. I could use another guy. You're coming with me. And that's how that happens. But that is ad hocery at its best. This is what paratroopers do. You got to go accomplish a mission with what we have. And almost all of those missions, even the successful one, are all accomplished terribly undermanned.
So it's almost like they're paratroopers first and 82nd or 101st second.
You could argue,
right? Because you're all in the same boat.
Well, and this would be a product of our tactics, techniques, and procedures, our standardization and training. Yeah. The idea that you fell into me and you're a rifleman, roger that. I know what a rifleman. You're a machine gunner. I know what a machine gunner. We know how to use all this stuff.
Winter's the same. Your particular mission might be different.
This is Winters, right? He loses all his gear, and then eventually finds somebody else, some other paratrooper's rifle. And
first a Mauser. He
first has a Mauser, but then later on he finds somebody else's M1, and a German who pops up and he pulls a trigger and drills a kid between the eyes, and he goes, "Thank God that other paratrooper knew how to zero his weapon." Like, talk about inherent trust in the system.
God.
That some guy I never met knew how to do all the right things, and that just saved my life.
Yeah.
I will say this: everybody's zero is different. So.
Why? Go ahead and explain that for people who are going, what does he mean by that?
That's how you're looking down the.
The way you line your eye up.
Yeah. And you know, whether you have the sights raised to the left or right, it's different for everybody.
Yep.
So, but
That person happened to be close enough.
if it's way out of whack and hadn't been zero at all, it's way out of whack.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, if it's close, it's gonna work. But
So, all right. What else? They're dropped, they're on the ground, they're scattered, they're starting to collect. They accomplish their missions. The sun comes up, or it's starting to come up. The landing is happening now.
So this, you're putting his kind of in the individual soul. Imagine, because remember, we were supposed to jump the night before,
Yeah.
right? And then we canceled the weather. Anybody get any good sleep that night?
Good point.
And then you spent all night flying over, you just dropped, you spent all night soaking wet, lost all your gear, finding your buddies, now you're accomplished mission. So you've already been up 48 hours at the time that this all happens. And you would have, just like you said, right? You would have noticed, oh, there goes the bomber stream. We're getting close. Naval gunfire. Almost sunrise. Like you could know by the string of events without even looking at a watch where you were on timeline.
Right.
And now you're either hustling to your objective or you're trying to consolidate, which is, we achieved this, but there's like 8 of us. It would be better if there were 12 of us. And how do I find other people to go ahead and make this happen? And then it's a little bit of a matter of securing the objective long enough. Can we wait for the 4th Division to arrive? It arrives for the 101st, same day, by mid-afternoon. It'll be almost 2 days, or at least by the 3rd day, that the 4th Division is St. Mary Glees.
I think one of the things that helps here is the ultimate mission, which was, in your terms, create friction, create confusion for the Germans. While they had all these missions on a map to do, the ultimate mission was just screw up the Germans. Don't let the Germans be able to bring all their troops to bear on the landing force. And that was the one thing that ultimately, whether all the other little specific missions worked perfectly, the mission of messing with the Germans, keeping them occupied over here so we could get the main force landed here, some of that could be to poor German leadership and their the mess with their command. But at the end of the day, that mission succeeded because the Germans were completely out of whack.
it took them forever to go on high alert. I mean, they go to different stages of alert, and they're at stage 2. Stage 1, I think, being the highest. Stage 2, and there's paratroopers on the ground already, and they're still not at the highest alert because they just don't believe, and they're unsure where things are happening. They're so confused. Rommel's not there, so that doesn't help. Everybody's afraid of Hitler.
It's one of my favorite quotes to your point, right? It says that none of the Americans knew where they were and all had complete understanding of what they're doing. All the Germans knew exactly what they were and had no understanding of what they were doing.
There was a story in I think it was from Longest Day or something, where there were several panzers, I don't know how many, and only Hitler could order them forward.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to wake him up.
Right.
So they never got involved. Is that a true story?
That's a true story.
It is true. Wow.
Yeah, I was reading the packet. I forget what it was, but they were waiting. There was a division of tanks. Yeah, right. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, it was a division of tanks.
Yeah.
There were 4 divisions, and they were waiting for. They couldn't do it because Hitler was the one who had to do it, and he was sleeping. Yeah.
And the only one in 20.
All the drugs that man did, though, give him a break.
yeah.
You know, I mean, let him sleep in once in a while.
And it's not like as if the British.
The wrong day to sleep in.
Yeah, right.
The British are getting their equipment on the ground probably a little bit better than the Americans, but they're dealing with issues like the 21st Panzer Division in that area where they're dropping into.
The only good thing is if you read the Overlord op order, if you look at the Canadian mission, so the Canadians land at Juno Beach, the Canadian mission reads like a terrain appreciation order for the Germans, because it says the only way the Germans can counterattack is by coming on the west side of Caen, and the Canadian mission is really to stop the panzers. and the Canadians stack their division. They for every infantryman the Canadians land, they land an artillerist because they expect to fight German armor. So they stack the deck. The most powerful division to land on Normandy is the Canadian division. Because they know the people they're going to run into are 21st Panzer. They've done their map study too.
I learned from studying this, don't underestimate the Canadians. I never thought they had much of a military, but their military was pretty
Canadians were all volunteers, and Montgomery would say they're the toughest stuff of any army.
They're the ones that did
participate in the raid at Dieppe, trying to get.
Yeah, they did. A lot of our learning comes from.
Yeah, and a fellow named Ian Fleming's out on a boat watching all this because he's with MI5 or MI6 because they want that 4-rotor Enigma. He's later on writes James
Bond. Yeah.
I will mention this. Paratroopers were all volunteers too.
Yeah. They were.
They do have some draftees that later volunteer to be paratroopers.
Right.
But you weren't drafted to be a paratrooper. Same as today.
Right. That's insane.
Back then, your jump pay was $50. When I was jumping, it was 125. So the rate of going up wasn't very fast.
No, it wasn't.
I should have gotten a lot more.
Yeah.
My knees ache.
It's like getting jury duty now. It's like at 1906 levels, like $5 a day. All right, so give me the cost and the benefit of the airborne drops.
Yeah, so we struggle. I appreciate that you gave the statistics you gave for casualties, what we presume to be on June 6th, because we'll never really know, right? Both these divisions are basically going to fight for the next 33 days. They're going to take casualties all throughout. But if we take your numbers, you said 1,200 and change, yeah?
Yeah.
So that's 2,500 casualties. We normally say Utah Beach is 210 casualties, and we go easiest landing during the D-Day invasion. You can't look at it like that. The landing for Utah cost 2,800 casualties. It's the 210 plus the 2,500 airborne. We normally go bloody Omaha Beach, 2,600 casualties, June 6th. No. The ante to land in Northwest Europe is apparently about 2,700 casualties on June 6th. So you can't take Utah as standalone. Utah, not unlike Eisenhower looked at it, was part of the intricate whole, and the airborne and Utah Beach are all one. All those casualties account. And so then you go, was it successful? Well, some of it doesn't work, and it's chaotic, and the casualties are high. But, at the end of the Gettysburg campaign, Robert E. Lee would say, the want of success is the reason to remove a commander. The want of success is also a way for us to evaluate operations, commanders, and each of its elements. This landing is successful. Therefore, the airborne worked. This is the beginning of the end.
Yep.
Once we're there, we're going to build up, and we're going to break out. And, essentially, 10 months later, the war's over.
That point,
but that doesn't happen. Unless the airborne are there.
So let's ask the audience, was the airborne drop worth it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, everybody agrees yes.
Yes,
right?
and also not just operationally for this, but what are the stakes? The stakes is the liberation of France, the liberation of Europe, and eventually the liberation of those concentration camps. That starts here.
Mm-hmm.
That cost of those men, 2,500, is to allow that to happen.
I'm in violent agreement, right? This is all of the free world looks at a 50-mile coastline of France. And we've spent the last 2 years. And if we don't get in, who knows when this is over?
Yeah.
Everything is in this bucket. Everything. So when we talk about all the risks the airborne takes and deception plans and Ruperts and everything that gets done is all an effort to kind of aggregate marginal gains to stack the deck to make sure this works, because this is about the liberation of the free world. And if it doesn't work, there's no place we know where we're going to start again. I totally agree.
And this isn't the largest airborne drop. That comes Operation Varsity, when they jump across the Rhine into Germany. It's when they're crossing into Germany. So
they learned some lessons from this, obviously, and improved.
Yeah,
they jump in the daytime then. Operation Varsity.
Yeah, so they'll do that in March of 45. September of 44, Operation Market Garden. Also drop in the day. Mm-hmm. Better suppression of enemy air defenses so that our aircraft aren't jinking across the target. Better radios, pathfinders out there, gliders that are going to land in the day. Like Look, warfare is a clash of wills, but it also is competitive learning.
Yeah.
And this is another, as we look at those next 2 airborne, they are reflective of the lessons we pull out of this.
This one was better than Sicily. The next one's
Right.
Let me tell you a quick thing about Market Garden. I gave a tour a couple months ago. This wonderful family from the Netherlands. And they knew my name before the tour. So I'm sitting in the Heritage Center, and the guy comes up and he says, I'm glad to meet you, Lewis. Had an accent, sound like Max Verstappen. And I know him.
You sound like who?
Max Verstappen won the F1 race this one.
Yeah.
I love F1. He shakes my hand and says, I got a gift for you. And I said, we haven't even started the tour yet. So he gives me something. I can tell it's a book. It's wrapped up. And I said, let me put this in my car. He said, no, I want you to open it now. So I open it up, and it's got an inscription there, Dear Lewis. And he shows me the map where his grandfather, 5 years old, lived in this place in the Netherlands, and the 101st Airborne jumped on his property during Operation Market Garden.
Oh, wow.
And he wanted to show that to me, this book about Operation Market Garden, where his family owned the land where they jumped onto. And I said, man, that's
Cool.
Chills.
it was the best. I had
Chills.
such a
super
good
cool.
time. And when you get people that are from a different country and they appreciate the place so much, it's just the best. Truly the best.
But you mean Gettysburg?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we
Well-
study what went on there, you know.
Right.
Some of us are really interested to have somebody reciprocate that in this thing that we're passionate about. It's just a special.
Yeah. No.
It was
I
neat.
know. I know what you
Can I
mean.
make an F1 reference?
Yes.
Thank you. Because one of the things I think is we all try to take history and make the future better from the past. Is we've all talked about team, and as in any F1, they win by tens of seconds, and they win by every individual person making a different decision in that moment to win by just what can you do for 1 to 2 seconds, what can you do. And to me, if there's me personally any lesson from what's happening, like as you talk about friction, Eisenhower and all of his chief of staff and all the planning set it up so that each individual decision is set up as much as they can for success. But where there is failure, there is compensation and there is support, right? That's what Canada's doing. That's what the Airbornes are doing. That's what the glides are doing. That's what everybody's doing to either pull focus or set everyone up. And I think there's something to that, because I think sometimes history can teach you that there are heroes, but sometimes the heroes are in everyone does what they can for that 1 to 2 seconds.
I like it.
Well, 1 second. As my grandfather used to say, when the glass is empty, it's time for another. But we don't have that time. We've got to wrap it up here. I'd like to thank George down there. He's the owner of the Mansion House. He and his wife, Cindy. Thank you very much, George. And of course, Doug Douds for putting this all together today and giving us his time. And you all here as well. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it too. It's Sunday night. It's not easy to come on a Sunday night. You all have to work in the morning and everything like that.
Taking off.
All right, well, you know, trying to make it look like a sacrifice,
It's
Lewis.
his birthday tomorrow.
Oh, well.
I have it at the top of my thing. Happy birthday to Lewis. 61 years young. Yes. The big 6'1", Lewis. Did you ever think you'd make it this far?
I did. I did. I'm not sure about the future now going forward because of the way I feel some days. But
Yeah.
I thought I'd get to this point at least.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully you'll get another 61 years.
Pray.
But otherwise, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching at home, and we will talk to you next time.
There was blood upon the risers, there were brains upon the chute, intestines were hanging from his paratrooper boots. They picked him up still in the chute and poured him from his boots. He ain't gonna jump no more. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. Gory, gory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. He ain't gonna jump no more. Now the letter they sent home went to his wife. wife and baby son. Madam, we regret to say your trooper's life is done. But hold your head up high, his name is written in the sky.
He ain't gonna jump no more. Gory, gory.